This is Visions Under Construction, a chance for our guests to share their visions and tell us what they're working on. For their continued support, we would like to thank Simwood, straight-talking, forward-thinking telecoms. Simwood.com. Why not make Cloudonics your communication partner? Go to cloudonics.io. You can find everything about the VUC at vuc.me, thanks to Bluehost, and thanks also to zipdx.com, the conference bridge, and to voxphone.com for local rate dial-ins. All right, so we're starting a little bit late, but we've got Anthony Quayle with us, a special guest star. No, wait, he died in 1989. I'm sorry, we don't have Anthony. We have Alan. Hello, Alan Quayle.
Hey, how's it going, Randy? You're looking good.
Glad to have you with us, Alan. You are always looking good, and I love the dark background, which is theatrical, which reminds me of Anthony. I didn't even realize. Did not realize that he passed away, I'm sorry to say, but he's gone, so we couldn't get him for guest today. But we have a better guest. We have you.
I'm not sure about that, but hopefully I can fill in a little bit, at least on the geeky side.
All right. Well, we're going to definitely be talking about the TADS, I call it, which is TADSummit. I have never successfully separated the two into actual dates and categories. So maybe the first thing to do is to say the next thing that's coming up, because you'd still do both, right?
Exactly. So we've got coming up next month is TADHack. So I guess with TADHack, it's changed focus a little bit. We began back in 2014, focused on telecom application development. That's our route. That's what we're always going to be focused on. But over the years, we've added more and more branches. So in IoT, Bitcoin, or sort of blockchain, I should say. And this year, we have, of course, we have VoIP Innovations, who are our programmable telecoms side of the house. So that's the telecom app development. But we have Status. So Status are an Ethereum OS. So they're doing some really cool stuff around Ethereum that really quite is well positioned to become the next generation of the web, the decentralized web, as they refer to. So we're really excited to have both them as sponsors. As I mentioned, 13th and 14th of October are when we will have most of the locations. We have 20 locations around the world. You can take part remotely as well. So you don't necessarily need to be in London or Lisbon or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or Melbourne or Brisbane, or I could go on and bore you with a whole host of different locations. We do have two that will be a week earlier. That will be Madrid and Buenos Aires, and that's because of Columbus Day. So Columbus Day, sort of, it's the Friday, so it's the 12th in Latin America and Spain. But what it means is it's a big, long weekend. So we're not going to get anybody turning up in the Latin America or Spain if we ran it on those days. So this, again, over 2 weekends, it's the way. Two sponsors, as I mentioned, VoIP Innovations, programmable telecoms, Status. And as always with TADHack, we're for everyone. It's not just hardcore coders. You could be a sort of a product manager, a strategy person, just an interested individual. Come along, take part, and have some fun learning about what's possible with these technologies. And one of the other things that we do, not only just opening the doors to anyone who's interested, is really asking people to, and it's hard, I admit, we don't just set simple tasks. We say solve problems that matter to you. So in your life, where you see problems, have a think about how these technologies can be used. Now, of course, different locations make suggestions. So for example, in Brisbane, they did an interview with Loop Chat, and they're using chat to help refugees learn English language, to help them in assimilating into Australia. So, that was just showing an example of how, both Status and VoIP Innovations can be used to help solve problems that people are facing. So that's a little bit of background on TADHack. So it's a hackathon. It's geeky. It's focused on doing cool stuff with technology. Then what we have on the 13th and 14th of November, so it is a little confusing, both on the same days, it's just a month different, is TADSummit. So this is really where a group of people that are interested in programmable telecoms get together and have some fun. So it's an intense 2 days in Lisbon. Now, we do have a physical location. We're not distributed around the world, but everything is streamed online. So you do not need to be physically there. Now, we're really lucky this year. Altis Labs have provided the location. The agenda is up on the website. Just go to TADSummit, TADSummit.com. Go to agenda. You can download it. You don't need to enter in your email, inside leg measurements, any of that stuff, and you will see a packed agenda. We're really lucky with the sponsors this year. The first keynote is going to be from Stacey Stubblefield, who is the co-founder and chief innovation officer at Telesign. We then have Marco from Tintech, Sylvain from Oiseau. We have Karim from Sequens. So Sequens are a very well-known CPaaS provider, generally targeting Middle East and Africa, but their business is global. So it's really nice to have some of the more regional CPaaS providers coming in. And of course, David Walsh from VoIP Innovations. Then in the main part of the agenda, we'll be looking at the evolution of CPaaS, that's Communication Platform as a Service. We'll then be looking at programmable telecoms in the enterprise. We have a session looking at programmable telecoms in customer interactions. And as always, we'll have some innovation showcases. So it's cool, bleeding edge technologies being demonstrated. And we'll wrap up the first day with a workshop from Philippe Vesac on design thinking and effectuation. That's backed by popular demand. So a lot of people took on his ideas and are wanting to have a more detailed discussion. Then on day 2, and again, this is a packed agenda. We do it on purpose because people are spending 2 days at a time. So we want to give them the best possible value for the time they're spending. We'll be kicking off with Web3 session. So we will have the Matrix guys there. Now, one of the investors in Matrix is Status. So it's a small world, but we have to thank Status for helping Matrix continue on. We have a great lineup of presenters there. We'll then have programmable telecom for telcos, and we'll have a range of presentations there. We're really lucky to have Yusuf from MTN in South Africa. So he runs TADHack Johannesburg, and he'll be sharing with him how he uses that for building his business in and around South Africa. And then we'll be wrapping up this day 2 with what we're sort of calling a State of the Union address. So this is really looking at, in programmable telecoms, it's a big segment. I mean, let's face it, Twilio has an $8 billion market valuation. We've got all these companies that are getting investment, that are doing cool stuff, yet we really, when people say like fintech, they get it, they have conferences on it, investors are interested, but we don't have like a collective noun for what we're trying to do in this space. I mean, we've been around for years. You say VoIP and it's sort of saying, well, that's old school, We're trying to find a way of just promoting the category so that, all of us that are involved can take advantage of that sort of broader recognition. So that's going to be what we wrap up on. It'll be a more open, free-form discussion. There'll be some presentations covering sort of, what the state of the market is, looking at some of the verticals, but then trying as a group of sort of activists in this space, try to find a way of promoting what we're doing more broadly across different communities. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview and hopefully a little better understanding on TADHack, Hackathon, Geeks, fun solving problems that matter, and then TADSummit is really sharing practical experiences and helping grow the overall programmable telecoms pie.
I have 2 questions, Alan. First of all, what does one have to do to get an early on the waiting list for TADHack Tahiti? First of all. Second of all, I'd love to have you elaborate, and I think Jay would be interested in this. To elaborate, you mentioned Ethereum and I'm trying to figure out what the connection is here. There have been innumerable ICOs, and I mean, there's so many things going on. And
Yeah.
I'm just gonna let me just throw this out there: 95 or 90% of it's complete crap.
Correct.
So this is not an ICO related. I don't know. Tell us more about that, because I'm interested in hearing about it. I do know Ethereum. I have, probably have $25 of Ethereum or something like that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So what about
it? No, that's a good one. So with Ethereum, it's don't look at it in terms of an ICO, in terms of gas. What's the price today? Don't look at it so much as an investment. Look at it more as a platform that from the outset has been created to support decentralized apps. So this is by far the most popular public blockchain-based distributed computing platform. So, yes, there's the ICO. There's a sort of value that's been assigned there, and it's been in free fall. The whole sort of Bitcoin and all those have been sort of dropping in value over the past couple of weeks. But ignore that. Even if the value tends towards zero in Ethereum, it's actually the platform that's been created in enabling apps to be supported. Now, generally, most of them are games, but it could be, file sharing. It can be, social media. You've got some interesting ones like Aragon. So again, it's a small world. Louis Ivan, he was one of the first winners from TADHack back in 2014 in Madrid. Now, he's gone off and done a whole range of really cool stuff. And he actually has founded a startup, Aragon, that's focused on creating decentralized governance. Now, actually, there's a big conference taking place in Berlin at the moment, ETH Berlin. And he's presenting there at the moment around what he's doing in with Aragon. So I'd say look at it not so much as it's blockchain, it's an ICO, there's a dodgy investment. Is actually think of it as the beginnings of what could be a decentralized version of the web.
Which a lot of people are working on. A quick mention, by the way, I don't know how many of you have heard of it. Well, most of the guys have heard of it in our Wire channel, because I mentioned it, Scuttlebutt. So this is yet another federated. You look like you're nodding, Alan. So you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And so naturally, I couldn't resist. So I got on it and was checking it out. It's interesting. I think both Mastodon and Scuttlebutt are really interesting projects. And I encourage anybody with the curiosity to, I just noticed there's a patch on this shirt. Oh, it's wrong. There we go. I never saw that before. I'm distracted by my own image here. It's brilliant. Scuttlebutt.nz, I think, is where you go to for that. Yep. There is an app called Patchwork. Anyway, interesting. And that's because, and there's lots of talk about blockchain and so on there. So that
absolutely. I think Jay is raising his hand.
Yeah, Jay, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. You were muted as a precaution. So
right.
Noise coming from you.
That's always a good policy. So, Alan, thank you. And I know that in the past you've had some of the folks from Protocol Labs, IPFS, involved in the TADHacks. Will that be happening this go round as well?
Yep, they support us. So David Diaz, it's individuals. So David Diaz, we've known him since he was working on WebRTC. We work very closely with IST. He's a professor, adjunct professor there. So he's supported us over the years, principally with TADHack Lisbon. So that's, and of course, because of his help in promoting across the different groups, we list them as partners in TADHack. So no, I was actually this morning talking with David around, just getting him to nudge a few people to get them involved. We're really excited about having Ethereum on board and getting people looking at how this, platform that can support decentralized apps can be used to solve everyday problems. Because at the moment, the whole blockchain community is, there's a group that are very excited that, go around the world and having different conferences, but it's all same people having the same conversation. The thing with TADHack is, we're very broad. We've got people from all walks of life, from basically sort of 12-year-old kids that bring their parents along to experience a hackathon and hack, all the way through to people who are retired that just want to keep their minds active, and then a whole range of different verticals involved. So what we do is we take a technology and help the people understand what's necessary. So it's helping states understand what they need to do to make it more broadly addressable, to get more people in and playing with it, and they're making some great strides. Embark.status.im is a great stepping stone, and then just getting people thinking about what this technology can do. And it's always, every year, out of the sort of 100+ hacks we get out of TADHack, is how technology gets used, and it gets used in ways you wouldn't possibly think. I mean, out of Chicago last year, we had a hack that was dealing with emergency situations in getting a distribution of emergency aid. And guess what? They still use faxes at the distribution centers, because you don't need to have a computer there. All you need is somebody that can read, and there's a record of everything. And you would think, well, fax, but guess what? We presented that, and the people that were sort of involved, who had been involved in emergency aid distribution, was like, this is exactly the type of technology that we need. It's practical. It covered. We don't have to have people using laptops and all the problems you get with having computer skills in distribution centers. It's a piece of paper. We have a record, and we can get basically the right goods to the right people at the right time.
Alan, I want to put you on the spot for a second, because I recall a couple of things that happened at the TAD events that I was participating in. And I know there was something for people who are either deaf or hard of hearing. Yes. There have been things for the blind. Could you come up with a collection of things for people? Because back in the day, look, zoom back, 20 years even, people were paying $300 for screen readers for Windows, and it just was insane. Maybe more. I'm saying 200. Maybe it was more like 500. I don't know. There was a horrible situation of people who have various limits to their senses. And now I'm pretty sure probably at TADHack, actually, I saw a couple of things. What have there been? There's been, was it Roger Voice? Is that one of them?
That's it.
Give us a little list.
Oh, wow. So, Roger Voice, they've been involved. We did a mini in Paris quite a few years ago, where you were basically our evening entertainment, Randy, your trio. So that was a great experience. So he was involved there, and of course has been involved in TADSummit as well, in raising people's awareness. And that's all about helping conversations be easily accessible by deaf people. And of course, founder, is deaf. We had one from that was using sign language. So again, if you were, it was translating from sign language into text that could be read. That one, actually, the team that created it, Sasha now is off working for Cisco over in the Bay Area. And then his partner in crime is still working at Voxbone. But they didn't take it forward into a real product or service in that case. But that idea has definitely. So I've seen several implementations. We had a very interesting one out of Sri Lanka, and its title was Digital Irrigation. So what this was doing is using SMS alerts on a very simple IoT device to improve irrigation for Sri Lankan farmers. That's become a real company and deployed. So one of the things that we've always tried to do is to encourage teams that have created hacks to take it forward. Not just, hey, this is a great idea. I mean, Quayle Bourgeois with Voxist, that again was out of TADHack Mini. Paris. He created a hack, saw that there was a lot of interest, and has taken that forward into a company. We've had other initiatives, like last year out of TADHack London, we had a group get together called Polite.ai. And this is looking at how to use AI technology to make online discussions more civilized, which, definitely it's just crazy at the moment, So, but the team come together, they create something, like the minimum viable product. And then, they're enthusiastic, they win a prize, and the team in their regular day life then take that idea forward. And there's tens of different sort of examples of hacks that have been created and then go through to either, become of a company, or just, it's a group of individuals that just push this initiative forward, or, like in the case of Satya, who was, one of his life objectives was to work in the Bay Area. And he directly attributes the job he got and the role he's got, in the Bay Area down to the hacks and the winning at TADHack in both London and in Lisbon over the years. So what we try to do with the event is not just go, woohoo, the sponsors are great, but actually for everybody involved to get some value and help make people's lives better.
Yeah, and I think that's an important goal. And I think it would be great if there was some ways to channel some of the winning things that improved the lives of people who have, for example, deficiencies in sight or hearing or whatever. I don't see that channel, but presumably there is one. And once people have shown a proof of concept, often is what that is, and then they require maybe some funds. So maybe there's a way to get funding for these projects.
Well, there's tons of incubators. What we try to do is not to be yet another incubator. We have, we have a community. It was on Slack, but we can't afford to be on Slack anymore. So we're on Riot now. So, once you're several thousand, it fills up the 5 gig really quickly. And then it's like the whole thing stops working. So,
it's like how much you want to spend to
keep it going. We couldn't afford it. It's like, damn, this is like the whole sponsorship for TADHack Global is going to Slack. So we're now on Riot, and that, we're sort of migrating people over. So we have a community where people can ask questions, ask for help. And again, we're both global. So we do this in terms of global recognition, but it's very locally focused. So, in many cases, it's just providing connections to help people get to the right incubator or the right person that understands the value proposition, so that can help the team get forward. And sometimes it's just being that bouncing board, because, in building a company, it's tough. Most of the time it's failure with occasional successes. And sometimes it's just being, don't worry, that's normal. Just to get somebody saying, don't worry, you are feeling this pissed off and frustrated is normal. Just keep banging your head against the wall. One of them's going to break at some time.
Okay, I need to drag James Bodie into this because he's going to be dragged away pretty soon.
I am.
Kicking and screaming. James, you're going to the next Lisbon affair.
I am going to TAD.
What are you doing?
Before I tell you that, I have to say that I've been to every TADSummit with one exception, which was the very first one in Bangkok. And I failed to convince my boss at the time that he wanted to send me to Bangkok.
I would go to that one, by the way.
You probably would.
Alan, so if you're listening, Alan.
Can I just interject here? I actually remember that conversation, and one side was laughing lots, and the other side wasn't.
Anyway, Lisbon actually is a really, really good place to have TADSummit because it's quite easy to get to. It's got lots of international traffic, including direct flights, Randy, from Bordeaux at very affordable prices. And when you get there, it's a super place, incredibly affordable, and just a lovely place.
And the Web Summit is the week before TADSummit. So you can go for the Web Summit and then stay over the weekend, enjoy all the excellent food they have there, and attend TADSummit.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Lisbon is one of my favorite cities in Europe. It's either, Berlin and Lisbon are the two places I really, really enjoy going to. But anyway, the thing about TADSummit that really grips me every single time is the quality of the speakers. And you know how you go to some conferences and they get a bit samey because you always have the same people turning up. But I don't know how you manage it, Alan, but you keep on finding a new intake of really interesting people each time. So how do you do it? And then you have the same boring people like me turning up.
Oh, no! You're a very important story.
Star.
No, we I've been pushing you to send me your session description. You know that, James, and using Andy to hassle you as well. So anyway, we have your session description.
Yeah,
now.
you got me. You got me. In fact, I think you had to write my session description for me. I went, okay,
Exactly.
okay, I surrender. You got me.
Well, I mean, again, I consult around the world with loads of different companies, and also I try to set myself objectives in terms of, I say the word diversity, and I try as hard as I can to get a diverse speaker list, and it's hard, especially in this segment. I mean, look, it's all grey-haired, mostly old men on this call,
Wait a minute.
I
resemble that remark.
It's hard to get female presenters. I'm just, it's only one, which is pathetic. But I am so grateful that Stacey, who's one of the founders and Chief Innovation Officer at TeleSign, which is a very interesting company. They got bought by Bix for a big sum of money. So that, I think, is a very interesting story and shows the importance not of just offering APIs, and this is really about the evolution of CPaaS. It's offering solutions to business problems. And we can see that in Twilio, in its move away from just APIs into Flex, into platforms that make it easy for people to solve business problems. Their focus on analytics, on performance, on the data of communications, and sort of understanding how channels, how routes are performing. So I think all that shows the sort of maturation we're seeing around this segment, and being able to get a diverse set of people together to talk about that, and from different areas of the world. Because again, I'm really pleased Sequence, who have been an attendee at TADHack for many years now, are now a sponsor. And they recently actually did a weblog on the TADSummit blog talking about some of the stuff they've been doing around banking in Middle East and Africa. So again, it's really great that we can get this diversity of experiences together, to help understand where the market's going, but also I still feel this is a big gap that we have all this cool stuff, all this value that's being created. I mean, let's face it. Programmable telecoms is now, with TalkDesk, with Twilio, with all these different companies, are making big strides in enterprise telecoms. This is
and offering really valuable new ways of doing things,
exactly,
with new functionality and at price levels that you just couldn't do before.
Exactly. And so we have all these new companies and there's new value being created. And we're talking about, I mean, if we look at enterprise telecoms, that's a, basically $250 billion a year industry. It's massive. So, it's one of those where I see we're doing cool stuff and this massive sort of revenues that are being, new revenues that are being created or substituted, if you like. But it's trying to get that broader recognition to make it easier for people to get funding, to get deals, to get awareness. Because if I talk to many of the players in this space, the hardest problem is getting awareness. I think by collaborating together, we can help.
You're absolutely right. And as usual, I think, Alan, you tend to be about 3, 4, 5 years ahead of everybody else. So it's this business of picking up the things that are going to be big in the future. And I'm afraid you've got a lot to answer for, because Andy and I would not be where we are today if it hadn't been for TADHack and TADSummit, and the awakening that we got out of it, the fact that the realization that we actually can do what we're trying to do. And if we hadn't have come to TADSummit and had that awakening and mixing with certain interesting people, there are people that we met at TADSummit who are now embedded in our solution.
Excellent.
And if we hadn't have come to TADSummit, we would never have met those people and we wouldn't be where we are today. So I cannot recommend highly enough TADSummit for people who are listening who've never ever experienced something like TADSummit before. I say you just have to come along and experience it. It's very difficult to explain what goes on at a TADSummit, and the formal presentations are only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much stuff that goes on in the margins. It's unbelievable. So,
excellent.
yeah.
Thank you so much, James.
Brilliant. So,
I think the usual, not the opposite of the disclaimer, but the usual thing I talk about conferences, because I've said this for years and years and years, which is that when you meet people in person, no matter how shy you are, you're there in the room and somebody's presenting, or even they're not presenting, they're just sitting there with their laptop. As long as you don't interrupt people, they're really very nice and receptive. They're there to meet other people. And it actually happened, ironically, once that somebody wanted to talk to me for reasons I can't even fathom. And I was actually talking to my wife at the time and couldn't talk to that person. But the point is that you're going to connect with a lot of people. And it's not, before the internet, this didn't exist. So this is one of the few things, and I mean that, one of the few things that has made life better in the internet age with social media and all that, is that you're going to get people and they're going to be outside the ultimate exhibitionist, Instagramish, Twitterish, political meme crap, and they're going to be in person. So you're not going to have that problem. And, you know, it's super important to get out. You got to get out more. People told me that for years, and I did it, and look where I am now. It worked.
I fully agree.
You can meet James Bodie. He's, you know,
Yeah,
I saw James on
scary.
Free World Dial-Up. James, I saw you on Free World Dial-Up for years, and I finally met you. Not sure whether that's a positive or negative on the scale, but it's there.
Yeah, that was in Madrid, wasn't it, for Astricon?
Oh, God, now you're going back. Yeah. The Auditorium Hotel in Madrid. It was one of the earliest places to have gigabit internet, or at least it had huge bandwidth at the time.
Yes, yes.
And the takeaway for that particular Astricon was that you had like 230 people in the lobby with headsets on talking to their office because the bandwidth was so good. Because in those days you didn't have roaming. Literally,
No, we didn't.
It was either it didn't exist or it was so ridiculously expensive that nobody did it.
Anyway,
So I remember talking on an X phone to my wife at that Madrid hotel. Anyway, well, we're really doddering old people here now. Alan, where do people have to go? Corrado, you wanted to say something?
No, yeah, please.
You were just agreeing. You were just agreeing with me. Doddering, blithering old people. Jay,
I've got a quick question, Randy, before we wrap it up. So, Alan, did I hear you correctly that status.im has is now taken over, or Matrix is under the umbrella of status.im? Is that correct?
Right. So, you know, Status, you know, their ICO was very successful, raised a lot of cash. So they've invested in Matrix. So you'll see a close collaboration between Matrix and Status, but they are separate companies. And you know, Status has made an investment in Matrix, which, you know, for the geek inside me, it's really good because it gives Matrix so many more degrees of freedom and also exposure within a massive community that's growing fast. So, you know, when they were raising the cash, it was like, you know, they needed to raise it to survive. You know, it was a tough time, you know, for the team, but they got through it. And I think the investor they got is an ideal investor. So really looking forward to seeing what Matrix does in the coming years.
who is Status? This is not status.com, status.net, right?
No, status.im.
What is that?
That is an Ethereum OS. So what they're doing is making this whole decentralized web really easy to build decentralized apps on. One of my rants is it's all about the services. It's not the APIs, you know, it's not about basically your platform. It's all about the services. And what they've done is make what they're doing is making it as easy as possible for non-blockchain experts to come in and build decentralized apps. So go to status.im or just go to the TADHack website, click on global, and then you'll be able to sort of get all the links through. All that material is getting updated next week. We've got some training videos getting uploaded. So there's going to be lots more content there. You know how it is. It's the summer. Everything goes slow. And then it's this last month before TADHack. It just gets crazy.
Yes. And you know what? It's probably worth coming to TADHack TADSummit, if only to meet with the guys from Status. And I have to say, the first time I ever met Matthew from Matrix was at a TADSummit.
That was right. Yes, it was in Istanbul.
In Istanbul, and he had me at the 30-second point with his second slide. He put up this slide, and I looked at that and thought, flipping heck, that is clever. If you can do that, Matthew, then you've got a winner. And guess what? They have done it. And so the guys from Matrix are, in my estimation, up there. They're up there with the best of the best.
And hopefully they will be on VUC soon, because I talked to them at, I think it was ComCon, and then I've been on and off on Riot and talked to them, and they're super busy for reasons that everybody who knows them knows why. But we got to get them back. And boy, Federation is really the F word. Yeah. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, because it's Scuttlebutt is federated, Mastodon is federated, Riot/Matrix is Riot is the client?
Riot is the client.
Okay,
Matrix is the underlying.
So you can go to riot dot what? IO? No.
IO. I know.
Riot.im. See, there's too many of these. There's too many TLDs now, and you don't know who's IO, who's seriously.
What is IM, by the way? Is that the Isle of Man, by any chance, Alan?
Probably.
Could be.
It could be Indonesia. Indonesia. I don't know what it is, but I spoke to Tim Patton briefly earlier today, and they have a .re, which is Reunion Island, which is a French. Whatever, colony or whatever.
Yeah.
I have one of those domains, but I always thought you had to be in France to get that. But anyway, the point is, there's all these TLDs, and I don't even know anymore what .io is. .io is like the hip thing to get now. But then there's .im, which is like instant message. I mean, what is all this? I don't know. It's like all the .coms and nets are gone, and now we got to.
Yep.
Matrix.
I just use Google. Just Google it, and it pops up. It's what extension. It's almost that's secondary now. It's just a quick Google or Bing or whatever preferred sort of search.
No, Bing. All right.
The only people I know that use Bing seem to use it for porn. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, it does work well. You just have to turn off. Turn off the safe mode.
What is worth saying that people who use Bing or people who use Bing for porn nowadays? They're both bad, aren't they?
Exactly.
Bad.
No, not bad. Not bad.
Bad is in the eye of the beholder.
Embarrassing.
Anyway, James, I know you're going to be dragged off in a second, so I'll give you another 5 minutes to rant if you want. You have 5 minutes exactly.
Do I want to rant?
Well, rant or expose.
No, I'm quite happy at this moment in time.
Let's hear about your week. You have 5 minutes, because I know Sophie's going to drag you off in 5 minutes. So, what was your week?
It's been a busy week, actually. Sorting out schedules and things like that. So we've got 2 weeks now until the proper live launch of Chalk Mobile here in the Chalk Valley, which is causing a certain frenzy of activity, I can tell you, and that's why Mr. Andy Smith is looking particularly exhausted at this moment. But we've got a little way to go. And then I confirmed this week that I'm going to be going to Astricon in Orlando, so I should be there doing dangerous demos. And this one is going to be the biggest and best dangerous demos session we've ever done. For those of you who've been to Astricon, you'll know that the Astricon dangerous demo stage is absolutely enormous because of the number of people who go there. And a massive stage with 2 podiums. And we've been doing a bit of sorting out with Mr. David Duffett and the Digium team, sorting out the logistics for that today. So
the
that one
Digium / Sangoma team.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Indeed.
And you know what they say, times of change are times of opportunity. So without a doubt, this is going to be the biggest and best dangerous demos we've ever done at Astricon. And we're going to be joined there by our good friends from the Free Switch and Signal Wire team as well. That's going to be interesting in itself.
Is the Queen going to be there?
Which Queen?
Oh, come on.
There's only one, James.
The Queen of Asterisk.
The Queen of Asterisk, the Princess of Free Switch, the one and only
Alison Smith.
Yep.
Without a doubt, she will be there, and hopefully she'll be sporting a new Asterisk dress, because every year she seems to come out with a new Asterisk branded dress, which is always a delight for her admirers. I don't know how she does it. She just keeps on getting younger and younger. Perhaps it's because we're getting older and older.
Yeah,
that's what it is. But she looks better and better every year. Alison, yeah. Everybody, all developers, all VoIP developers, just love Alison.
Oh, she's one of the sweetest people in the business. James, I think you're going to have to go.
Yeah,
you have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes to be out of the door with my dear darling daughter taking her to the railway station. So I'll bid you all a very good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
And
thanks for joining.
Alan, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Lisbon.
It'll be great fun.
And the date of that is, remind us, Alan?
13th and 14th of November.
Oh, okay. In a couple of months.
Sorry, what I remember, it's a new hotel this year, isn't it?
We're actually Altus Labs.
Altus Labs, but then there's a hotel, because the hotels are important because of the amount of stuff that's
one does need to drink, eat, and sleep.
Yeah.
In that order.
So is it a good hotel? I haven't quite worked out where
close to the old hotel. So you could always go in there. I use Airbnb. Airbnb is so cheap in and around there.
Well, you're a cheapskate, aren't you? So that means that I can go to the same usual Indian restaurant. No. I couldn't believe it last year. I took a gang of people and walked in there, and who should be sitting there but Dean Bubbly? I mean, of all the people.
Is Dean going to be there this year?
Absolutely. Dean's a regular.
Okay, he's a terrific presenter, so that would be one big attraction right there.
Yeah, he's presenting in the Web3 session, so he's going to be talking around the applications of blockchain.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, he should be down here for the launch of Talk Mobile. He's coming here to cover that.
Cool. Excellent. Oh, that's great.
Complete with the government minister.
Excellent, James.
Anyway,
congratulations.
I better go.
All right. Goodbye, James. So that leaves us with what here? Jay, I interrupted you because I knew that James had to run. You have some unfinished business, maybe. Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Randy. And thanks. I think what you're doing with TADSummit is awesome. And all the points that you made are just right on target in terms of what the ecosystem, I think, needs and will help it flourish. So, but I just wanted to comment, Randy, that status.im is something that addresses your question from earlier regarding how does this Ethereum thing fit into the communications and what's next and so forth. I haven't followed Status in some time since their ICO, but they initially started a very interesting set of proposals for sort of a unified communication system that included payments as well as messaging and voice and all sorts of things. So I'm also excited to hear that they are now in sort of a collaboration with Matrix, and I think there could be some very interesting things that come out of that. But status.im is definitely, I think, an example of what is sort of brewing out there in terms of a coming together of this blockchain thing, which I think is a really poor term, and money or value and communications and, as you call it, federation or decentralized constructs. All that is somewhat represented by status. Would you agree, Alan?
Absolutely. I think that, you know, this is a project. These are a group of extremely smart people all around the world collaborating. Zug in Switzerland seems to be getting more and more popular. More people I know seem to be moving there from all around Europe. But yeah, it's not a big deal. You know, this isn't being done in terms of, you know, like, if we were to look like 20, 30 years ago, you put a group of smart people together, they create a standard, and this is the way it shall be. What we're seeing here are lots of smart people all beavering away with different projects, you know, doing sprints, throwing stuff out. Some of it's not working, some of it is, and there's sort of like, you know, there's this like natural, you know, there is natural selection for sure, and we're seeing, you know, a rapid evolution in, you know, both the propositions and the ideas, and, you know, it's getting to the point now where I feel, and this is why I was so happy that Kim, the CMO from Status, agreed to sponsor, that it's now ready for a broader group of, you know, technologists, but aren't buried in the sort of blockchain Ethereum world, to start looking at what it means in solving different problems, because that's really where things start to scale up, is when you can take a technology, it solves a real world problem for which people are, you know, people can pay. And as you say, the great thing with blockchain is it's, you know, decentralized, distributed ledger with trust and a payment mechanism built in. And you know, it's only off the last sort of 15 years that, you know, that's existed. And, you know, it's now, you know, being sort of played with. Yes, there were a whole host of people getting rich quick, because guess what? There's a ton of basically sort of dodgy money that looks at a way of laundering through ICOs. So, you know, yes, there's been a lot of hype and there's valuations that are a little bit silly. Where when we look, you know, the geek in me, when I'm looking at this from sort of a techno-economic perspective, I think it's a new technology that solves a number of problems, that, you know, deals with a trust issue, that finally really, you know, because we've talked about decentralization for decades now. Anybody who comes from a computing background, it's always been distributed, you know, computing systems. I think now we're really starting to see the technology coming together, you know, problems being solved in a way that, you know, I again, still early days, but I feel that the technology's at the point where a broader segment of technologists can start looking at this and actually, you know, create businesses on top of some of their ideas very quickly. Again, you know, once you have a DApp in Status, you get distribution, you've got the payment mechanisms built in, you've got trust built in, and you can start to use these to solve problems, and then you work with your customers to scale up relatively quickly. It's a very new way of working. It's not like the App Store of Apple or Google, where it's, you know, sort of centralized control and it's all through there. It's a decentralized way. Yes, it's a lot more chaotic, but again, trust is built in. So I think this is one of the things that, you know, we've never experienced this before. I've never experienced this in terms of the technology and its capabilities. And I see it as something that anybody that's involved in telecoms has to track, or really technology, but I think telecoms in particular, because this has the potential to really revolutionize a lot of, you know, some of the principles that we hold dear.
Absolutely. And just one last point, because I know we're getting short on time. A good word and mention of VUC to David Diaz, Protocol Labs, would be most welcome here, because we would love to have David on the VUC, and certainly Juan Benet as well.
Yes.
Or, you know, anybody from that from that team would be awesome, because they're doing some incredible work. And I think, you know, when you look at what Status.im's doing and Scuttlebutt and Protocol Labs, that really is the vector for the future, in my view. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I have him on Telegram here, so I'll ping him on Telegram about VUC.
Telegram. Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay. Anyway, lots of things. Actually, there's lots of more to discuss, and we started late, so we have a few more minutes, actually. And for that matter, we could talk for 3 hours. It doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of who has what time. I am a bachelor this evening, which means that although I have unlimited time, I also have unlimited hunger and would like to go upstairs and fix food. Alan, let's make sure that we get all of the references to the TADS. And to me, it's like TADSummit, TADHack. So I call it TADS.
Yeah.
You have a whole universe of stuff going on. So TADSummit.com would be the hub. Is that the hub or is that not the hub?
No, for the conference, because it's two different groups of people.
Yeah.
So I maintain two separate email lists for TADSummit, TADHack, and they are quite different. So TADHack, just go to tadhack.com, then click on what you would call it, global. You'll get everything in terms of all the locations, the dates. We have remote entry. Then TADSummit, so TADSummit, click on that, and then you'll get the dates, locations. You can download the agenda, it's all there. And then we even have into March of 2019, we have TADHack Mini Orlando. So that's just before Enterprise Connect. So we're going to be at the same location over in Valencia College the weekend before Enterprise Connect. So again, even into the future, we're TADHacks.
Wow. It just had some frame dropping just at the critical moment there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's not you. It's the network.
No. So
we have the URLs. People
Okay.
could go look at that, and we have lauded praise on these events for years. They're well worth attending, and if you can't attend, get on the web because it's all streamed. It's all you can talk to people. You can actually engage, and it's all really important stuff.
Exactly, because that's from the get-go. We've used online distribution so that we stream the hackathons so you can see what's taking place. TADSummit, we stream the presentations. People can ask questions remotely over Riot or from YouTube, and it's all recorded and available online. And again, I mean, it's testament when we have some videos that have been viewed, over 10,000 times, which for the geeky niche we're in is significant. I mean, it's pathetic compared to all the viral videos and all the popular YouTube channels, but for our weird geeky niche, it's pretty good. And again, as you said, Randy, you've been a great supporter, remain a great supporter, and helping just raise awareness of what we're trying to do. And it's lean. This isn't a big organization that makes TADHack or TADSummit. It's basically lots of individuals around the world coming together to make a difference.
I agree. And hear.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Alan. And of course, you're welcome to stick around. But Corrado had some things he wanted to talk about. And by the way, the first thing we might want to mention is this weird micro something. Who are these people who do these routers? Because this has been a topic for months, actually. But there's been a recent thing here. What happened in the last few days?
Well, probably, James, last time we were discussing offline about MikroTik routers. And this week just popped out that there are some very specific vulnerabilities that make these routers absolutely open to any kind of hack and reprogramming remotely. So that is, and there's an estimate of about 6,000 MikroTik routers that are at the moment already have been violated. So that is a major bust up at the moment. But router OS is quite complicated, is quite complex, and you need to know it very well to administer the routers. So I think there's someone that knows that router OS very well that is trying to do something specific, someone that has the knowledge and knows probably the code behind the router OS, that is has read the code and knows the vulnerabilities and is exploiting them. So I'm not going to the point of saying they could be an insider job, but it's close. It's someone that has a very specific handle on the routers.
But the recent incident, was it not some very specific thing going to some mysterious server?
Yes,
Was it Ukraine related or not? Because there's a lot of that.
So, most of the requests for DNS were duplicated and routed to a server in Eastern Europe. You can always argue that you never know if the destination is really that one with VPNs and all that. So to say that an IP address, destination IP address is somewhere is still a bit too vague. As we discussed last time, an IP address is no longer an identifier for people, is even enshrined in law now. So it's a bit too vague. But yes, that there was some sort of hijacking again. But from what I can gather from what I know, is someone that knows those routers very well. It's a bit of a niche market also. So it's a bit delicate now, a delicate moment for router OS. If I can slip in just another couple of bits of news, we discussed before about Digium and Sangoma acquiring Digium. Sangoma is making good strides at the moment. He's moving into the UK market with their SIP trunking service and the PBX hosted PBX service. So I think they're in the money at the moment. That's all I'm thinking about it. The acquisitions and the marketing they're doing and the new products that they're developing and a new footprint in the UK is probably a good horse to bet on at the moment. I don't know if anybody else agrees.
We had a before anybody else answers, I just want to remind people that last week we had kind of a scoop because I grabbed people on Twitter from Digium and possibly Sangoma, and right when the news was announced, we were actually live. So,
yep,
interesting. I did not know about what you're saying. Sangoma is launching the SIP trunking and hosted PBX services in the UK yet. Why in the UK? I don't know.
Because there's a channel event that they were planning on being at anyhow. So they're just taking the opportunity while they're in front of a bunch of people to launch this thing, which they haven't had till now. So it was probably in the works. It was probably in the works while the acquisition was coming, because Digium's had comparable service up in places for quite some time. About the only person I've heard who has any sort of alternative viewpoint on that acquisition is what's his name? He's fallen out of my head. Nerdviddle's fellow.
Ward.
Ward, yes. Ward. And Ward, he was looking more at it from the perspective of a debt service thing. It was quite a spend.
Yeah.
Quite a spend for Sangoma, and they're projecting the combined company to have substantially more revenue than the two individual companies did. And in this particular case, they're acquiring, they borrowed to make the acquisition, where I think in earlier cases they didn't do that so much. So we shall see. It might change the color of the picture, but I think they're a strong company. So what the heck?
Yeah, and also because there's always been a synergy between FreePBX and Asterisk. To buy Digium from Sangoma that acquired the Smoothcom that were those maintaining FreePBX. It's a natural synergy that is built in. So finally something can be done in the code of Asterisk from the same people that use the code as an engine for one of the widestly deployed FreePBX and PBXAC, that is their commercial product. So,
and I also think that Sangoma has been really smart in the last 7 years. They've acquired a number of companies, and so far those acquisitions have gone well, generally. So
also well received by the open source community. They're playing nice.
right.
Probably
This was not a case of eBay. This is not a case of eBay acquiring Skype, for example, or Microsoft acquiring Skype. Those things did not go well.
No. Probably because Sangoma is a Canadian company, so different type of ethics.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Actually,
Yeah.
The only thing I know about Sangoma is that, first of all, they were possibly going to be sponsored the VUC for several months. We talked to them about it. I met two people personally at different shows, and they expressed interest. But the point is, they always were hardware for me. It was the cards.
Yeah, they were a board maker, but then they've been making phones, and they bought an SBC company, they bought an ATA and a gateway company, and they've been doing a lot, increasing their footprint a lot, right?
Michael, are you using your new DECT? No, what is that thing that you're talking on right now?
I am. However, I did, just leading up to this call, I did a lot of, I had some unexpected trouble, so my PC may not be in great shape right now.
I don't know. Corrado made a comment earlier privately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you sound like you're calling from a GSM phone. That's all.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure I would go that far, because that's my hearing is very limited. Anyway,
what actually happened was, for some reason, the USB connection to the PC just let go.
Oh.
And that was like 3 minutes before we were starting, so I didn't do anything serious about it.
Well, I don't think it sounds horrible, but it does sound different than what we have come to expect of your quality.
The level is certainly higher.
Yeah, the level's a little high. You might be able to reduce that, might change things a little. However, we only have like a minute left. Not that anyone's counting, but we started late, and it's 8 minutes after the hour. We started about 6-7 minutes out of the hour, so we're good for an hour. Anybody else have any? Andy, you've been incredibly quiet. Maybe you have some things to say.
Well, when you've got Mr. Bodie spouting, there's little point in trying to add any words at all.
He sucked the oxygen right out of the
word edgeways.
Yeah,
sucked the oxygen out of the room.
No, the Sangoma thing I find quite interesting. My initial experience with Sangoma was with the hardware, but when I spent some time buying some cards and things from Sangoma Rep, he was at the time recommending me to use FreeSwitch, not Asterisk. Wow. This is a number of years ago, and I find it quite funny that Sangoma bought FreePBX and hence bought into the Asterisk infrastructure rather than the FreeSwitch infrastructure, and end up buying Digium. It's quite an interesting progression, shall we say, from my initial contact point.
If you want footprint, you need to go with Asterisk. There's no option. It's the number of seats that are piloted and then driven by Asterisk. So if you want to expand, you need to stay on that. Although I agree that FreeSwitch is should be FreePBX engine because it opens a lot more opportunities. That's so consolidated that it's practically impossible to extricate out from that.
Yeah, well, I don't think it matters unduly. I see over the last few years. I mean, not that we usually spend much time talking about VoIP products, but over the last few years, the V word, Asterisk and FreePBX have really almost homologated in terms of facilities. The way they deliver them is slightly different, but the various facilities and also the progress that's been made under Matt Jordan at Asterisk over the last few years in terms of software development and taking Asterisk away from its original roots and into a more of a complete software product has made a big difference as well. And from my perspective, FreeSwitch was the purer of the two. Now I can probably not argue either way.
Mm-hmm. But what about Asterisk high availability or something? Because there were some false starts and some things that kind of anyhow, that's all back under the weeds. There were also there've been some substantial people changes at Sangoma in the last couple of years. Their head of marketing, who's a guy who was well regarded, is gone, changed out, and when from the acquisition of FreePBX, this all seemed to be preordained, kind of a year or two ago, I would have thought.
Well, obviously, you need to make space for the guys some of the big heads of the guys you acquire. So there will be probably elbowing to make room.
Corrado, are you familiar with Crosby, Stills and Nash?
Yes.
Well, they had a very good song called "Love the One You're With." I think
I know
that's
it.
a good way to terminate our public session. I'm looking over at the various
screens you have around.
Yeah, I've got like 50,000 things open. But what if I do this? Is it going to work, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks to everybody who's been listening and participating. We will see you next week. By the way, Randall Graham, who is a legend in winemaking and a really interesting guy, is coming, but we just don't know what day.
Yeah.
He's definitely, I got a PM from him on Twitter. This is going to happen. We just need him to get availability. Because he's in California, it's 9 a.m. when we start, so it's not that easy. But I say unto you, oops, wait a minute. Where am I? That's not it. I can't believe it. I don't believe it. What happened?